really don't have too much that I didn't like. I mostly just have compliments to give this movie. Like I said, it's my favorite of the year so far. In the last 2 weeks, I've seen 4 new movies. I've seen Borderline, Novocaine, Black Bag, and Opus. And I enjoyed all of them. I would say that Novocaine was my favorite, and it's just contrary to what audiences are saying, because people, including myself, are saying that we want these original stories, but then when original stories come out, nobody invests their time and money in them. And the acting there is really strong. I know it's an action movie, but the acting is really good. Jack Quaid is a phenomenal, very talented actor. And I think that his time on The Boys has served him really well, because it's a really dramatic show, but also with a lot of action, and it's exposed him to like all these different elements, because they film on like a really high production level on the show, like a movie. Welcome to Backseat Directing, where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more. I'm your host, Andrew, here today without Aaron. We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a newly released movie, Novocaine. 3, 2, 1, action. So, today I'm going to be doing a review of the movie Novocaine, unfortunately, without Aaron here today. I'm filming a series of videos without Aaron this week, just for fun. No, Aaron couldn't be here, which for a lot of you guys, I'm sure, improves the show greatly, because you really have to only hear the one voice that you wait to hear the whole episode, and that's mine. So I'm going to talk about this movie that I really, really enjoyed in theaters. 2 weekends ago, I watched it. Well, 1.5 weeks ago, I watched it, really, because it's Tuesday. But in the last 2 weeks, I've seen 4 new movies. I've seen Borderline, Novocaine, Black Bag, and Opus. And I enjoyed all of them. I would say that Novocaine was my favorite by a good margin, and Novocaine is now sitting at my favorite movie of the year so far in 2025. It's not too much to say, because it's not even April yet as of this recording, but I was very excited for this movie based on the trailer that's been out for a while now. I've been seeing it in theaters over and over again. Almost starting to want to close my eyes for the second trailer, because I don't want to get too many details. But I would say that this movie lived up to the hype. Before we get into IMDb and talk about the specifics of the movie, I do want to ask you guys to make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. As always, it helps us out a ton. But Novocaine is, like I said, released in 2025, an R-rated movie, 1 hour and 50 minutes long. It's considered a dark comedy / action movie. It actually has a superhero on here as well. So the description on IMDb is: when the girl of his dreams is kidnapped, the man incapable of feeling physical pain turns his rare condition into an unexpected advantage in the fight to rescue her. Nathan Kane feels no pain. This movie's got a really cool poster. It's like reminiscent of Operation, and he has all his wounds foreshadowed on the poster to the movie. It has a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb with 8.8 thousand ratings, which I think is a little bit unfair, to be honest. I rated this movie 4.5 stars on IMDb, because I thought the filming elements were really strong. The practical elements of like the makeup and the injuries and the wounds were really strong. I like the relationships between the characters. I like the actors a lot. I'll get more into the specifics, but I would have rated this movie well above a 7. Let's see if we can find the box office for the movie. It was made on a very lean budget of $18 million. It has grossed so far $20 million worldwide. So it's just starting to get into the green, but when you factor in marketing budgets and things like that, it's probably got a little bit of ways to go. It's not been incredibly successful. But last week, I saw a post from Raiders of the Lost podcast, shout out Raiders, and they said that 3 original concepts being released in theaters, Novocaine, Opus, and Black Bag, their cumulative box office gross for that opening weekend was less than $20 million. It was like 19.6 million or something like that. And it's just contrary to what audiences are saying, because people, including myself, are saying that we want these original stories, but then when original stories come out, nobody invests their time and money in them. And I get that the theater is expensive. I had this argument in a post that I made on social media. I get that it's expensive. Not everyone can do it. But if you're asking for there to be more original concepts, we have to give them the demand. They're not going to give us the supply without the demand. They're going to continue to make more and more remakes of the same movie. They're going to continue to make serialized franchises, Fast and the Furious 20, things like that, because we don't show up and spend our money on these original ideas like Novocaine. And Novocaine is like a time honored idea of going back to get the girl or revenge or save someone, but with this really awesome twist where his disability of having no functioning pain receptors actually makes him into a kind of a superhero for this storyline. It's like a double-edged sword that they talk about in the plot of the movie, which is actually very interesting. How when Amber Midthunder's character Sherry first hears that he has this power, she calls him a superhero, but he says, "Yeah, it's really heroic how I could bite my tongue and bleed out because I don't know that I am bleeding." Um, but he has this double edged sword to his power where he it's really difficult to live with it, but in the context of this story, it's what makes him able to try and save the day. Let's talk a little bit more about the cast and crew before I get directly into talking about the story. So the movie is directed by co-directors, which I think is really cool, because me and Aaron, who's normally on here, we're co-directors. We've made 2 short films, one still unreleased. You can go check out The Body. That should be pinned to our YouTube page. The directors are Dan Burke and Robert Olson. The writer of this movie is Lars Jacobson, and it stars Jack Quaid as Nathan Kane, Amber Midthunder as Sherry, Ray Nicholson as Simon, Jacob Batalon as Roscoe, Betty Gabriel as Mincy, Matt Walsh as Coltrane. Now let's play the game. Where do I know that person from? Jack Quaid is the son of Randy Quaid, but you probably know him from The Boys. He was also in a movie in, I think, February, Companion. That would also be in my top 4 of the year, along with, I'd probably put Companion and Novocaine as my top 2, both Jack Quaid movies. And then right below that, Opus and Borderline. Black Bag doesn't quite make it. But he's from The Boys. Amber Midthunder, I don't know what else I know her from, but she was in Opus. So I saw 2 Amber Midthunder movies that weekend also. Ray Nicholson plays Simon, and he is Jack Nicholson's son. And he was recently in Smile 2, and then he was in another movie I saw last weekend. He was in Borderline. He plays like the main villain of that movie, and he does a really good job. Jacob Batalon, I'm sure you know his name because he is Ned, the guy in the chair in the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. And then Matt Walsh, you might know him because he plays Detective Lohank on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. At least that's where I know him from. He's probably got bigger billings than that, but that's where I know him from. And then let's look in here at the cast and crew, because I like to pay homage to our other members of the group besides just the writers and director. They also don't get enough attention either, but let's look at who did the music. It was Lorne Balfe and Andrew Kaczynski. If you haven't heard of Lorne Balfe, he's done music for something you've watched. Known for composing on the Lego Movie, Black Widow, Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows. He worked in the music department on Dark Knight, but the Dark Knight music was done by Hans, along with one other composer. Oh, it's the guy who did Finding Nemo. I can't remember his name right now, but that's a rabbit hole. But he also did Carry On, action movie from last year. Lorne Balfe has done a lot. He's done a lot of work in the industry. And then cinematography for this movie was done by Jacques Jouffret. Jacques, I hope I pronounced that right. His cinematography in this movie is phenomenal, and editing was done by Christian Wagner. So let's talk about a little bit of what I liked about this movie. I really don't have too much that I didn't like. I mostly just have compliments to give this movie. Like I said, it's my favorite of the year so far. I thought that the story was really interesting and unique with this this medical condition, kind of making this really withdrawn character ostracize himself from other people. He's very withdrawn and hermit-like. He just goes to work with his job as assistant manager of the bank, and then quietly goes home and plays video games inside. He blends up all his food so he doesn't accidentally bite his tongue while he's chewing. He's very careful when he drives in traffic, and the movie's very careful to visually establish these things about the character to show us how careful he is. He has the corners in his house and at his desk at work covered in tennis balls so he doesn't bang a part of his body on a corner and not know that he hurt himself. He's got he drives like leaving multiple car lengths between him and the car in front of him. He's like puts ice in his coffee to make sure that he doesn't burn himself or his mouth. And it's really very interesting because they visually display it without telling you, but then they kind of tell you later. You get the idea that how easily he can be hurt colors his entire world. He has to be very careful, and he was raised this way. His parents kind of raised him as a bubble kid, and so it changes his whole personality. He's more withdrawn, he's more shy, he doesn't know how to talk to people as well because he has to be so extra careful, and he doesn't want to have to tell people about this. He doesn't want to have to include people about this. He's maybe a little bit embarrassed about his condition, but he finally opens up to Sherry, Amber Midthunder's character. She accidentally makes him burn out his hand with a cup of coffee, and as an apology, she invites him out to have lunch, where they've built this connection because he tells her something about himself that he doesn't really tell anybody about his condition. And she invites him to an art show that she has paintings at, and he comes to the art show, and they have this budding relationship, which is really cute. And we see the difference in him the next morning after he goes home with Sherry. He sleeps with her, and he wakes up the next morning with newly infused confidence. It shows him tossing the fruit into his smoothie for the morning. He's singing along to music on the car ride and driving more carelessly. This newfound confidence and excitement that he has, he's actually looking forward to his day because of Sherry, and he wants to go and talk to her and tell her that, like, it was life changing in a sense that their date was very important to him and that he had a good time. But just as he's on his way to talk to her, their bank gets attacked and is being robbed. And it feels a little odd that the people robbing the bank are in Santa costumes and that this movie takes place during Christmas time because it came out in March. But that didn't really bother me at all. It just does feel a little bit odd at first, and then you can kind of forget about it. It seems like maybe they had intended it to come out closer to the holidays, like an action movie at Christmas time, similar vein to Die Hard, but it's in LA, so there's no snow or anything. Like this, I mean, that's the same thing in Die Hard, really. There's it's in the environment, you can't really visually tell that it's Christmas time, so it works fine. But this movie has really cool camera work, and starting with this scene is something I wanted to talk about. When he gets knocked out, he has kind of this reverse POV rig where the camera is probably mounted to him, pointed at him as he gets knocked out and like falls to the ground, and we see his face hit the floor. Stuff like that just looks phenomenal. It puts you in his shoes, making you feel the hit, having the camera pointed at his face. It gives you like a really up close, gritty look at the damage he takes too, and that's a highlight of the movie throughout. Is they really visually show how much damage he takes, and it's something that I love about the Batman Arkham games. Actually, is you can tell what point you're at in the story by how damaged he is. It like tells you how far he's come. Because he can't feel the pain. His body's weathered by the pain. Like he has to take adrenaline at one point in the story, which is where they do a really awesome dolly zoom at that point to show like his pupils expanding and like his bodily like reaction to taking the epinephrine. But he has to take that because his body feels the wear of the damage, but he doesn't feel the pain of the damage. And like he doesn't feel when he has to go to the bathroom, so there's a timer. So there's all these unique elements to his character and his situation. But they just make all of that so much fun and fit into the story. They play it for really good jokes, like when he effortlessly takes the bullet out of his arm in the shop. That guy who has the hardware shop, um, he like just takes it out no problem, and people are giving him weird looks. It's like kind of tough and badass in a way, but he doesn't really. Jack Quaid doesn't really play it like that. He plays it like it's just part of who he is, but it comes off really cool and makes him really badass. Or when he's getting stabbed with the arrow and the guy's wiggling it around in his leg, so he has to pretend that it's hurting him to kind of draw the time out until Jacob Batalon's character can get there to save him, and he's like, "Oh, that one hurt. That one hurt the most." So they play it for really good comedy, but it also doesn't. I feel like doesn't undercut the coolness of it, because when they punch him in the face when they're robbing the bank and his face just swings to the side, he gives no reaction because he's too dazed by the fear of the situation. He tanks that hit and just moves his head, and they're like, "What is wrong with this guy? He can take a punch." But then when they finally threaten Sherry's Amber Midthunder's character, the acting there is really strong. I know it's an action movie, but the acting is really good. Jack Quaid is a phenomenal, very talented actor. And I think that his time on The Boys has served him really well because it's a really dramatic show, but also with a lot of action, and it's exposed him to like all these different elements because they film on like a really high production level on the show, like a movie. Um, but when he shouts out for Sherry and is like, "No, don't," like to hurt her, and there's tears in his eyes, like I feel this connection between them. Also, the movie has great writing. Lars, good job, because they put in this line that sold me so well. He has a meeting where that guy I mentioned earlier, he owns a hardware shop, and he's gonna potentially lose his shop, and Nathan Kane's trying to help him out, and he's like, I can't imagine what it's like to lose somebody after all those years. And the guy says, "Time doesn't matter. It would have hurt if just as much if she left me the day that she met, or the day that we met." I butchered that line, but it would have hurt just as much if I lost her the day that we met, um, because it's the connection that mattered to him, and it wasn't the time. The time adds context and weight to all these things, but he loved her the day that he met her. And that was like a gut punch when you heard it, hearing it from this older gentleman who's experienced this great loss. And it's a tether throughout the movie because it explains to us as the audience why Nathan doesn't just let them take this girl who he's only been on one date with. He feels that weight, that it would hurt just as bad to lose her now as if he was married to her for 40, 50 years. So that really covers that kind of plot point where a lot of people might argue, like, why is he trying so hard? But they spin it as this really beautiful love story, love at first sight. Not quite love at first sight, but love at first date. And I think that was really, really clever of them to do. And there's a great twist in this movie. So I've really spoiled things up to this point, but click off if you don't want major spoilers for the plot now. It's unveiled that, and they do great foreshadowing for this. They give detail earlier in the bar setting, but Sherry is the sister of Ray Nicholson's character, the head bank robber. She says in the bank that she lost her parents, she went into the foster system, that she had a brother, but it was like a rough experience in a rough household growing up. So that hints at this other character eventually being her brother, so it doesn't feel cheap. And initially I didn't know how to feel about the plot twist, but it really grew on me as things went on, because they went in this route where, like he says at the end, they're saving each other. So he's trying to save her, and my issue with the plot twist was everything he's doing is in vain because she's not in danger. Like eventually she is, because Ray Nicholson's character is gonna hurt her probably or kill her. But initially, when he goes after her and leaves the bank and grabs the cop's gun and car and chases after her, she is in on the plan. So it doesn't make sense for him to need to save her. But I think that they brought it around in a way that worked, and I think it worked out really, really beautifully, where he tries to save her and then she ends up saving him, and they save each other in the climax of the story. And here in the climax, we get some great camera tricks again, some great practical elements throughout. That's a huge highlight of the movie, is the practical injuries, the arrow through his leg, the bullet in his arm that has like that patch of skin through the t-shirt when he takes the bullet out, is all very practically done, where in areas where they could have used CGI and it might have been cheaper or easier. So I appreciate that, or like attention to detail, that extra effort, and it feels like classic movies that used a lot of practical elements. It's really cool to do that in action too, because it feels real, it feels gritty. This movie's definitely very bloody and full of injuries, so I really appreciated that element of it as well. And then we get really cool lighting here at the end, where they're in a flipped over ambulance, and you've got red lights flashing off the ambulance on them as they have this final fight scene. And it's they also ended it in a way that I liked, where they didn't just tie a beautiful bow on it. The characters faced repercussions for their actions: house arrest for Nathan and prison time for Sherry, which I do think they kind of got off with a slap on the wrist for the real world, but I think it was just enough to be believable for the screen. So we have punishments for them, but they all ultimately end up together. We get this happy ending. I do think he did kind of forgive her easily, but like I said, I gave this movie 4.5 stars because it's just a ride. Like, it's an enjoyable ride throughout, and there's like little nitpicky stuff that you can look at and complain about, but the movie is so much fun. It's so well filmed. They have really cool shots with drones and dolly zooms and reverse POV, and they told like a beautiful love story with awesome action. And I love movies that combine genres. That's what I think. When I like Django Unchained, because it has a love story, it has action, revenge, drama, and comedic moments too. This movie does that. It has comedy, action, has dramatic moments, it has a romantic plot. There's this great friendship between Jacob Batalon's character and Jack Quaid's character. So I think this movie encapsulates so many different genres in such a good way. And I really just like fun stuff, like his morning routine changing and visual storytelling, the way that they played it off, where you can watch it without words and experience the story through, like I said, visual storytelling. But Jack Quaid's performance is phenomenal. One of my favorite of the year so far. Like, it'd be that and Ray Nicholson and Borderline for my two favorite actors performances right now this year. If you want me to do reviews on the other movies I watched, I can do Opus, Borderline, and Black Bag. Just comment below and let me know if you want to see reviews for those as well. But this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy talking about Novocaine. I'm waiting to see what movie might dethrone it for the rest of the year. But a 4.5 is a really high score for me. The highest movie I rated last year was Dune with 5 stars. And I think last year that was the only movie I gave 5 stars, I want to say. So we'll see if any 5-star movies come out this year. But thank you guys Please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us on all of our short form platforms on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X. Make sure you join us on our Discord. You can click the link in the description below to join that. It's getting more expensive. No, realistically, it's free. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay, but you can join in there and talk with us. Aaron, who's usually on the show, is in there. We've got previous guests of the show and fans of the show, and it's a good group. We all like to talk about stuff like this: movies, TV shows, comics, and more. And we post trailers in there and talk about new upcoming movies, what we're excited for. We do the polls. It's a whole lot of fun. So join in there. Let us know if the link isn't updated, and we'll send you a new one. Just comment or send us a DM. Yeah, make sure that you're following us everywhere, but know that we love you and we appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.